Hey guys, welcome to another episode of T-Hawk's 2 Cents. So I had somebody reach out to me and they wanted to see how I do hinges. So I don't do hinges a whole lot unless I'm working on an art project of some kind. And just so you know, there are lots of different hinges out there. There are cradle hinges, silversmith hinges, standoff hinges. There's like hinge pins, there's spring hinges, there's a ton of different hinges out there. And today I'm just going to be showing you guys how to do a very simple butt hinge. There's two joints that I'm going to connect together with a moving piece in the middle. So I'm just going to start off by showing you what you'll need for this project. So today we're just doing a simple butt hinge, and I kind of wanted to explain to you what I'm personally doing with it. So me and another metalsmith artist here in town have kind of challenged ourselves to do a box with some sort of spring-loaded hinge, and so this is part of that project. Basically, I've got like a little bucket that's going to go in this little hole, and then there's going to be a lid on top of it, and when I push the button on the side of the ring, the lid will spring open, which will release the bucket, and then bam, glitter bomb ring, there you go. So what I have to do is I have to put a hinge on this piece and this piece, and that's going to be what attaches the lid to the side of this little silver bucket thing. So basically you're going to need a pin back of some kind, whatever you use to do to stick in the middle. You'll need two pieces of tubing, one for each side of the lid hinge, and then you'll need your two pieces of hinge. When you're soldering though, you're gonna need a piece. For me, I'm using a 0.7 piece of lead from a mechanical pencil, and what that'll do, I'll explain how this will help keep things straight, and at the same time the solder doesn't stick to it. So that's a really helpful tool, is this mechanical pencil lead. So let's get after it. First thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to file down both sides that you're going to be soldering a hinge to, because they need to be flat. So as always, when we're soldering, we need a nice tight join. So everything's got to be really nice and straight. I already filed this little piece, so once they're straight and they fit together, we'll take it over the solder bench and I'll show you the next step. So once you're over at the solder bench, you're going to want to take and you're going to want to flux the edge of that piece. You're also going to want to flux the edge of your little tiny piece, and you're going to want to kind of position them where they'll be pretty close. So people do a lot of different things to keep the solder from flowing where they don't want it to flow. Me personally, I use this graphite. It's a really good way to keep things really straight when you're soldering hinges. And then instead of using like yellow ochre or something like that, what I prefer to do is I actually put a little separation in between each of the hinges. Just a small separation. You don't want it to be too much, or else your hinge will be less it'll be less strong, it'll be weaker. So you get those pretty close together. Now you don't just go soldering both sides. This is the part that you really got to kind of be aware of. So you want to put one piece of solder on one side of one, like that, and then another really small piece of solder. You don't need much on something this small. It's just more cleanup if you goop solder on there. And then put one on the bottom hinge right here on the other side. So you'll basically have one joint on each side. And now we're just going to heat it up and solder those two pieces together. So we're going to want to heat this big piece up first, because it's going to take more time to heat that piece up than the little tiny guy. Just make sure your solder's staying where you want it to stay. Boom. There we go. It's soldered. So once you have your 2 hinge parts soldered, the reason why you put this piece of graphite in there is because this helps you just keep everything straight. So once you put it on your piece and put it together, both of these hinges, these hinge lines will line up. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and take this off, and I'm going to put my stainless steel pin back on there just to show you guys. So they're 2 separate pieces, but you want to keep them straight while you're soldering them. So now I have these 2 independent moving pieces that I can attach to my glitter bond ring. I hope that that was simple enough for you guys. If you're looking for more tips and tricks on hinges, you're gonna probably want to look up the specific type of hinge that you're hoping to do. And also there's a really good book out there called The Complete Metalsmith by McCreight. I would say definitely start there. There's a lot of good hinges in that book, a lot of good change, just a lot of good information for beginning metalsmiths. And one more thing to just put out there is hinges are difficult. And so if you don't get it on the first try or the second try or the third try, just keep going. And the best thing to do would be to take 2 scrap pieces of metal that you know, so you don't mess up your project. I take a couple of pieces of scrap metal and practice doing hinges before you actually start working on your project. That saves you a lot of frustration, a lot of material, and it gives you the hang of how to do it, so when you do get to your piece, it looks a lot better and more finished. So I hope you guys all have a really great week, and I will see you next Thursday for another episode of T-Hawks Tuesday.